Aloha and good afternoon. Thank you for tuning into this Hawaii News Now special live stream. I'm Dylan Ancheta in the H&N Digital Center. Happening right now, there is a news conference on the latest Maui wildfire recovery efforts. Let's go ahead and listen in.
So here we are. It's been 10 weeks since the disaster that occurred here on Maui. We lost 99 of our loved ones. We still have some work to do to close, I think, the 6 remaining cases. And we pray every day that there are no more loved ones that we've lost.
More than 99.
So we do appreciate how difficult this has been. It has been tragic. In addition to that, it has had a very large impact on our people across the board. We've had so many people displaced. We know that we have over 3,000 families that were displaced. As of yesterday, approximately 6,800 individuals were still in hotel rooms across 35 hotels. Hundreds of families now in Airbnbs. In our HHFDC program, people are now moving into the Mayor's Excellent program, which he will be sharing. So we're making a lot of progress, but it is going to be a very long process. And what we want to share with people is we are here till the very end to get people into stable housing so that for the long-term recovery, the very long-term recovery, we can be ready. We can be ready to heal. A couple other things I wanted to share. Just under 9,000 of our individuals became unemployed. That number is beginning to drop. As of last week, it was 8,773. Jimmy Tokioka, my DBED director, will share how that number has begun to decline. We did announce the opening for October 8th. It was, as we expected, a very gentle opening. Very few additional people have come, but we're mindful that will have an impact on us going forward, which is why we have to be steady. Steady getting people into housing, steady making sure people can return to their lives. Also, this has been a big week because we returned to school, and we were very grateful to see a lot of people celebrate going back to school. But even so, we're understanding if people aren't ready yet, and that's also important. One of the messages is we are going to be understanding if people aren't ready to work yet, and they still need more time. If they're not ready to move yet, we will find a way to get them into a stable place in their life, and when they're ready to go back to education or to the other parts of their lives, we'll accommodate that. You'll see some significant changes and improvements to resources in the coming days. On the 20th of this month, a large operation to get grants through the TANF program will open up with MEO, Maui Economic Opportunity. Those grants will be applied for through them. We have set aside already $50 million with the additional $50 million coming as soon as it's required or needed. That's important. That could get people grants up to $30,000 to help buy a car, in addition to the resources they get from FEMA and American Red Cross and so many other humanitarian efforts. That's important. It can also be used for first and last month's rent. It can be used for a lot of things. So you'll see that. Now later this week, early next week, I'll go to Washington to see the president again, to see the leadership in D.C., to make sure they understand the support we need to give to our mayor. So not only seeing President Biden, but I'll also be able to see the HUD secretary. In time, that will be very important because that resource will come to the mayor so he can build a lot of housing, as is decided by him and the community. And he set up a process that he'll describe. That's also very important. So I'll see the HUD secretary, the White House, infrastructure personnel, health and human service personnel. The mayor and I discussed yesterday where our priorities and responsibilities should lie. My responsibilities will continue to be working with the federal government, working with both FEMA and their leadership, who I'll also see with the Red Cross, bringing grants. Meanwhile, I'll also focus on healthcare and economic development and our environmental concerns, which our Department of Health is able to deal with. The mayor, who has to rebuild community, will be the point person for housing. And he has many solutions for the people, but he is closest. He is closest to the needs of individuals one by one and has the heart for that. And so he will be able to help people rebuild and restructure where they live. So what I think I will do is just mahalo people because it has been so difficult. And we understand that. We absolutely do. There are going to be decisions like in any crisis that are hard. There are decisions that we'll have to be understanding when people aren't ready for them. But we move forward, and we're going to do all that we can to help people heal. You have a great team here. And if I may, I'm going to pause there so that our other experts can address the community and talk about how these plans are going to unfold. Aloha.
Mahalo, Governor Green. Next, I'd like to introduce Maui County Mayor Richard Bisson.
Aloha. We know from talking to our residents the anxiety and the uncertainty that they feel when it comes to the topic of housing. I appreciate Governor mentioning the county will take point on getting our folks into stable housing, safe, secure. We have some milestones and some landmarks that we do want to reach in this. We want to focus on getting people into not just stable housing, but an interim housing when they are ready to leave the hotels. That's not going to be an easy process. We understand that. We're trying everything possible and doing all that we can to make that happen through the work that's already been set forth by Director Tokioka and his folks, building upon the Airbnb rentals. But we're also going to focus on the host family program, which we talked about already in a previous press conference. That host family program, I just want to stress, what it talks about is having existing inventory, families that are already taking in other family or friends or fellow co-workers. We want to reward them by giving them funding to help with that. This is a good program because it's statewide. You can be in any county in the state of Hawaii and qualify for this host family program. We want to use the services of the Red Cross to get that word out to the folks that are staying at our various properties, as Governor mentioned, the hotels. So we're going to make a better effort of getting that word out to our folks, which is already starting. Again, that program, we also plan on making it retroactive. In other words, paying families up to $1,500 a month if they've taken people in since August 8th. The other thing we want to talk about is the rental assistance. Thanks to the work of FEMA, of course, the GEM program doing rent abatement. There are other programs, of course. The topic of modular homes has come up, and we are discussing that and looking into how that can be not only a short-term, but eventually a long-term solution, meaning if we're going to lay infrastructure down on our island, we're going to make sure we put it somewhere that we can make use of it after the temporary structures are taken down. So again, all part of a larger strategy that we're working with many others who know about this kind of work or who have suffered this kind of tragedy in their community. I'll also make myself available for questions later. Thank you.
Mahalo, Mayor Bisson. Next, I'd like to introduce FEMA's Regional Administrator, Bob Fenton.
Aloha. The administration continues to support ongoing operations here with a number of federal agencies that are here with FEMA to support the state of Hawaii and the county. And even more important than that, and I've talked many times about it, really takes a coalition, is having in that coalition not only government but private nonprofits, private sector, and even those that are affected be part of that team. And to have Gail here from the Red Cross McGovern is really a key part of that. They've been such a key partner to FEMA in responding to this event and all events across the United States. So it's great to have here today. One of the things that we're really focused on, as the Mayor talked about, was supporting the housing mission. And we've already given rental assistance to almost 3,300 people thus far. That rental assistance is 2 months of rent based on the fair market rental rate based on how many bedrooms they had before. Those 3,300 people have received that. They could go out and rent a unit. We know that it's a difficult rental market here, so what we're doing is providing assistance, working with nonprofit organizations and private sector to help them find that, and also to assist in providing additional funds that you're hearing about here today from other organizations. Once they rent something in FEMA, if you're part of that program and you're one of those 3,300 people, you can ask for extensions in 3-month increments. And what we did is, based on the high cost of rent here, we increased it from 100% fair market rental rate to 175%. That should provide the necessary funds to continue to rent, and we can provide those funds up to 18 months. So we want to help individuals rent as much as possible. We realize that some may need additional help, and in some cases we'll direct lease properties and act as a landlord to sublease to individuals. And in some cases, as the Mayor said, we may have to build temporary solutions, and we're looking at those and have our engineers along with other federal entities working on some of those solutions. But we remain committed. In addition to the housing, we're doing things to focus on preparing Lahaina for whatever the future of the vision is for Lahaina, to help remove the hazards, remove the debris. And to date, the administration, just in FEMA funding here, has spent almost $1 billion in responding to this event. This is just the beginning. We'll be here until the job gets done, until we get people into safe, stable housing, and until we work with the county and the state to rebuild Lahaina. Thank you.
Mahalo, Bob. I'd like to introduce American Red Cross President and CEO Gail McGovern.
Aloha and thank you, everyone. I want to start by saying my heart goes out to the people that were impacted by this fire. It's heartbreaking. People lost everything. People lost loved ones. And the American Red Cross is doing everything possible that we can to try to soften the blow. We are working closely with state government, FEMA, the Maui mayor. This is going to take a lot of players to make sure that we get people back on their feet. And you heard about a mosaic of different types of housing. We will provide case management and get people into housing as it becomes available. In the meantime, as the governor mentioned, there are 6,800 people in hotels. We have case managers in those hotels. We're taking care of them to the best of our ability. People tell us their stories. They have a catharsis. We're taking care of them and doing the best we can with them. And we do have experience with having people in hotels and getting people back in their feet this way. Something that I'm very excited about is that we are hiring people in the community to be able to be employees of the Red Cross to help us with this project. And the reason I'm excited about it is these people know the community. They know the streets. They know what's going on. They have cultural sensitivity. We've already hired over 100 people, and we've just started, so that number is going to grow. The other thing is we have volunteers that just spontaneously jump in to help, and it's part of the Aloha spirit. They show up, they see a need, they want to fill it. So we have a lot of spontaneous volunteers that are helping us as well. We've given out a lot of financial assistance so far, $11.3 million to about 5,000 households. So we're getting people jump-started. And for people that are truly vulnerable and need it the most, we're in the process of giving another round. $3.4 million has been given out already, only in just 2 days. So we're here to help. Red Crossers are born to help, and they see a need, and they just need to fill it, and I'm proud to be a part of it. And again, my heart goes out to everyone who is suffering from this tragedy. Thank you.
Mahalo, Gail. Next, please welcome the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism's Director, Jimmy Tokioka.
Aloha and good afternoon. I want to take this opportunity to thank the team here, and I really mean the team because it is a great team. I'm around a lot of people for all the years that I've been in government, but this team that has been working under the direction of Governor Green and Director Fenton has been incredible. I can tell you that there's not a night that goes by or a day that goes by that not everybody is working together to help the people of Lahaina because it was so tragic. So I'll start with the housing side. The governor asked me to take the lead on moving people from the congregate shelters into hotels, and we were very, very fortunate because we had a few hotels, and I've said it in a few press conferences, that stepped up without even a contract from Gail and her team and Bob and his team. They stepped up and they brought people into their properties, and the two properties are the Royal Lahaina and the Kaanapali Beach Outrigger. They did an awesome job. I don't know too many people who would do that, but they did, and they've been continually doing that. The Royal Lahaina will be a hotel that if the survivors want to stay, they can stay. and many of those rooms have kitchens. So that's what we're trying to do now. And Mayor Bisson, I promise you, we're not walking away from it. We're going to continue to give the resources as if we were still doing it, but with your guidance and with your team's guidance. And we want to make sure that the survivors have a more comfortable place to live, with a kitchen, with a parking space, with a place to walk their dogs. And we will not end, the governor won't let me sleep. He texts me at 4:30 in the morning until we get that done. On the economic recovery side, I will let you know that I've been working very, very well with your Director of Economic Development, Luana Mahi. She shared with me some plans that they have for the Lahaina businesses yesterday. It was a video clip that is incredible. You should be very proud of what you folks are going to do to help Maui businesses. And all of the people that I've spoken with, because of my position as the Economic Development Director of the state, the people that I speak to in Lahaina, they are craving for something like that. So the program, I know she's going to do a great job. So I have a lot of statistics that I could share, but what I will say to you is that there are two very, very good websites. It's the dbedhawaii.gov and the MauiRecovers.org. Right, Mayor?
Yes.
.org. Those two websites, for any statistic that you want, go to that website and you can get as much information as you could possibly imagine. We are going to be working with Debbie Kabibi at MEO on some of the forgivable loans that the state is going to be putting out in conjunction with the county. So we're looking forward to that, because the businesses that are struggling are really going to need that help. So it's going to be an opportunity for us to help them. And as I said earlier, this is something that we think about every single day. There's not a day that goes on that we don't do that. So thank you for this opportunity. I want to thank the interpreter for supporting so that the deaf community can understand what we're talking about. Thank you very, very much. Aloha.
Mahalo, Director Tokioka. Finally, I'd like to welcome Department of Human Services Deputy Director Joe Campos.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you to Governor Green for the support that he's given to the Department of Human Services. Governor Green and the Department of Human Services has worked tirelessly to ensure that we can provide people impacted by the wildfires, both on Maui as well as Hawaii Island, the critical support that they need to restore their lives and repair and heal. The department has worked with our TANF reserves to be able to mobilize up to $100 million, which will go to support families. We have partnered with Maui Economic Opportunity. Thank you, Debbie. Maui Economic Opportunity has worked tirelessly to ensure that we are able to start accepting applications for this program this Friday, October 20th. We also want to thank the County of Maui for their support as we roll this out. We also want to share the fact that this is for families with dependent children. We encourage you, if you have been impacted by the wildfires, to please apply. Let the Department of Human Services and Maui Economic Opportunity determine your eligibility. We do not want you to go without the opportunities that exist for you. And I'll be able to answer any questions. Thank you.
Mahalo, Deputy Director Campos. Now I would like to open the floor up for questions from the media. I'd like to remind everyone that we welcome all questions, but we do ask for your aloha and kindness in asking them. Please raise your hand and await my acknowledgement, kalamai, at which time I will ask you to state your name and news organization. Then you can proceed with asking your question. Just give me a beat. I'm going to repeat it back so that everybody tuning in can understand what the question is, and then whoever your question is for can come up and answer. Maupopo? Let's start. Wendy?
Wendy Osho, Pacific Media Group in Maui now. The question is for Mr. Tokioka about the return of tourism. It's been about 10 days. Can you give us an overview of where we stand right now? Is there a significant increase in tourism, or is it just kind of a slow, gradual return?
Mahalo, Wendy. Wendy's question is around 10 days post the October 8th reopening, a status update from Director Tokioka.
Thank you, Debbie. Well, let me just start with the October 8th date. A lot of thought went into that by the governor and the mayor. And the information that we got, I meet with the hotel operators every single week, sometimes twice a week. So I would constantly ask them what their reservations look like, because it's important to us to figure out where we need to be and how we need to get there. So every time I have these meetings, I communicate with the governor what the status is like. One of the questions that happened when the governor made the announcement to open on October 8th, every other day I was calling the hotels to find out what their occupancy was, what their reservations patterns were, and it was down. In fact, some of the hotels lost reservations after the governor's announcement. So we knew there wasn't going to be a big influx of visitors coming. We also knew that some of the timeshare properties, the guests would come because they owned the week, but we did also know that a lot of people have moved their week to another time during the year at the resort that they were at. So we were well aware of what the circumstances were going to be. We also asked them in the first quarter, what was your reservation patterns looking like? And they continuously tell us it's down. The only month that they have some concerns is December. And there's a few weeks in December, but I'm very proud of the people that we're working with, because what they're telling us is that, Jimmy, we'll work with each other to figure out if one hotel is in need of rooms, we'll figure out how we can do it. So I give a lot of credit to the properties that are in there, and for the most part, there are some that are way better than others, but for the most part, the major ones are working well together, and I give them a lot of aloha, because every time we ask them for support, they say, it's our people too. It's their employees that they're helping. So I think that answers the question, but I appreciate the question, because we put a lot of thought into how we were going to move forward with tourism. And that's why what the mayor's talking about is the vacation rentals and moving them into those more comfortable living arrangements. We need to make sure that we can help the hotels so that they can start booking the regular visitors when they come back. Thank you.
Wendy, good? Chelsea, you're up.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Chelsea Davis with Hawaii News Now. This question is for Mayor. Mayor, what is the process and how long will it take to select and develop a landfill site for the permanent disposal of non-hazardous debris from Lahaina? And where will the material be stored until that is built?
So it's the process and the timeline to build a landfill site post wildfires. Mahalo, Chelsea.
So we're working with our Department of Environmental Management. There's going to be an agenda item with the Department of Land and Natural Resources, their board, on Friday, October 27th. We'll know more at that time. But we do have a plan of keeping the non-hazardous debris on island at the wishes of our Lahaina community. We understand that there may be remains that is contained within those areas. Wherever we put that on Maui, that's the only thing that will be stored there. This will not be a landfill in the sense that anything else can be put there with it. This will be placed there solely by itself. And we'll have other plans for what will be done with that in the future. But the plan is to leave it here in Maui. Thanks, Chelsea.
Good.
Yes, Governor, of course.
So, I think it's also important to give the governor and their team great kudos. As of yesterday, they had, in their partnership with the EPA, had cleared 1,103 lots out of about 1,500 already of some of the most toxic concerns. These were refrigerators and other chemicals that had to go first before people could return. And so that also has been a very significant process. As you know, on Saturday, we did get the results back that there were heavy metals discovered in the ash in Kula. We are obviously going to test all of the ash in all of the areas, but it's very methodical. the way the EPA approaches this. That will also affect, the mayor and their team and how they best keep everything, organized and stable for recovery. Because long term, eventually the people will decide how they want to rebuild, how and where their homes should be. And so we have to be very thoughtful about the environmental health. It was arsenic that was the concern, and it has not been found in the water. It has not been a threat near the schools, but we still have to be very careful. So when people do go back to those properties in advance of the full removal, we're still asking them to be safe. And so this will be a constant partnership. Our Department of Health team will be right there with the mayor's team and FEMA's team to make sure people don't, inhale or ingest any of that ash.
Mahalo. Our next question is from Dan Nakaso with the Honolulu Star Advertiser, and this question is for Mayor Bisson regarding any idea of timing for Phase 2 for reopening based on Phase 1 experience.
Yes, I can say that Phase 1 has gone well, and I will be getting an update from my advisory team this Friday. We meet twice a week, and this is the topic on our agenda this Friday. So I'll know more then. Thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, thank you. Paul Aker, Maui Alert. Question is primarily for Mr. Fenton. Talking to small businesses, very small businesses, they're saying that they're getting no assistance from FEMA. If they lost a house, they could get assistance, but if they lost a business, they can't. They are on the brink. What can you tell those people?
The question from Paul is around small business support from FEMA.
Yeah, let me go ahead and start, and I'm sure that there's others here that bring other resources to the table. FEMA's assistance is really geared toward residents that lost their homes, but SBA can help businesses. So once you apply to FEMA, whether you're a resident or a business owner, you're sent over to SBA to get further assistance from SBA. There's other federal agencies here, EDA, is here, USDA, and they bring other grants that will help the business community. But I'll tell you one thing the businesses could do right now is they could go fill out a right of entry, and they can fill out a right of entry to remove the debris off of their commercial property. Usually FEMA just clears debris from private residential structures and not commercial structures. And so one thing they could do right away is fill out that right of entry. They could go to the Disaster Recovery Center at Lahaina. They could go down to the county building and fill it out. Or they could go to that MauiRecovers.org website, and electronically you'll be able to do it there. That's going to be a significant cost savings to them on the rebuilding by being able to leverage that website. So there's a number of grants, SBA, other grants will be coming, but let me hand it over to the state. And then also there's through other grants that may be out there through the state and philanthropy and private sector that are available to individuals that have business losses.
Thank you, Director Fenton. That was very thorough. On the state side, we talked a little bit about it, the $12.5 million that's going to go through MEO. The council is approving the resolution that will allow the money to move over to MEO. And in my discussions, which is once a week with Debbie Kabibi at MEO, as soon as that money's approved, she's ready to go. The applications are all ready. They had a lot of experience during COVID, so they know what to do and what not to do, and I'm in constant contact with Debbie and the mayor's office and the county council.
Bryce.
Yeah, thanks. Bryce Moore with KHON2. How many wildfire survivors have been asked to, or just have left hotels to other housing, and do we know where they have gone?
So the question from Bryce is around how many wildfire survivors have left hotels, and might we know where they have gone?
I'll do a quick version.
Well, I'll tell you, so thank you, Bryce. At one point, we had 7,996 individuals in hotels. And then as of, I believe, yesterday, we had 6,879 people in hotels. I'll defer to even more updated numbers from Bob. But you can see there has been some transition. And just, again, to reiterate what the hope is that if anyone is out there in our state, in Maui, if they have a place they feel they could rent, make sure you contact our teams. Because we can, through Bob, find a way to get a contract or to get the funds to people so they can rent. Our goal is to utilize in a large way the mayor's visionary program to get people into households so there's resources to that family and a safe and comfortable place. But there's a lot of inventory out there that we hope to avail ourselves of. We want, over time, everyone to get into a condo, an apartment that has a stable place where they can resume their life, a house. So anyone out there that would like to participate in the program, will find a way. We do have, through the HHFDC program, over 1,000 houses statewide. I believe it's about 700 on Maui that were already entered into our program. We just have to match people who are living in hotels with those properties.
Yeah, as the governor said, this is really a collective effort here. And what I see is I really look at applicants or households. And so I think the height was 4,105 households that were in the hotels. So 4,105 households where the governor gave individuals, and not to totally confuse you, but that was on October 15th. On August 26th. On October 15th, the height was about 2,731 households. So that's a 1,374 difference in about 50 days. And so what's happening, where are they moving to? There's a lot of programs, as you're hearing today, that allows people to move out. Some are on their own using our rental assistance and finding rentals. We can see 400 or 500 people have done that. We've already received 100 people who have asked for that second assistance of rental the next 3 months. So that's starting to happen. In some cases, it's family and friends, and there may be other programs here that's helping people move on. I think, as been said by the mayor and the governor now, what we really want to do is help people move to that much more stabilized, longer-term housing where they have kitchens, where they have washers or dryers and those kind of things. So we're really focusing our resources in the case management and Red Cross's resources and other nonprofit organizations on how do we provide that. While FEMA could provide rental assistance, maybe we can't provide the furniture that you may need to put in. Maybe we can't provide first and last month's rent. The good thing is, by working with organizations such as Red Cross and CNHA and some others, they can do that. So we're trying to collectively work together as a coalition and work with each individual to understand their unique needs. Do they have a pet, no pet, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, AFN, not, and meet those needs to help them get back into a longer term housing.
I'll just expand on 2 more things. This morning I was fortunate enough to be in a meeting with the Red Cross, with Gail and her team, and CNHA, and the program that they've set up with the mayor is working well. There's 400 families that are being assisted through a program, and
540.
oh, the number went up from this morning. And it's an awesome, I know we shared that information at another meeting that the mayor and I were at. So, a lot of people know that CNHA is there, but they've been a real great resource, and so fortunate to have that Hawaii Fire Relief Program through HHFDC. The number is almost 450 individuals that have been moved into the program, and we're trying to make sure that as many people as we can we put in those programs. And as the governor said earlier, it's on every single island. So if they can't find work here, if they can go to Kauai, there's units on Kauai, Big Island, and Oahu. So just wanted to add to that.
Okay, our next question comes from Audrey McAvoy with the Associated Press. It is a question for Mayor Bisson. Will the county be offering owners of vacation rentals incentives to convert their units to long-term rentals for Lahaina residents? If so, what incentives do you plan to offer?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We have talked about, of course, if you switch from a short-term rental to a long-term rental, that already impacts your taxes. Because the short-term rentals are taxed at a much higher rate. We have some other plans that the governor and I spoke about yesterday that we'd have to take to the legislature in trying to find, this doesn't exactly answer the question, but finding a way around our issue of the short-term rentals that we have. We're trying to incentivize folks by offering them not just rent that different federal agencies are helping us with, but of course, I don't know how else to say this, but we're appealing to people's conscience, I don't know how else to say it, to see if they will do what we think is the right thing to help someone. If you have a vacant unit and you know there's a family that can use it, we're asking nicely, and we're also offering a financial incentive.
About the rates that you mentioned?
Did that earlier.
Go ahead.
Hi, Megan.
Megan, Kalamai Megan.
I have actually a question about the lifting of schools. I know that after the hula ash testing or the results were released on Sunday, some parents were concerned. I was wondering if Lahaina has similar results and levels of toxins. Does the state and county have any plans for moving forward for the schools, especially during phase 2 and the demolition of the zone?
Okay, Megan asked a very thorough question. I'm just going to simplify it. The question is centered around as schools in Lahaina have begun to reopen this week. There has been kula ash testing that came back with arsenic. So Megan is asking for a status update on the Lahaina testing as it relates to schools and Kiki. Mahalo, Megan.
What I wanted to just maybe start off with before the governor answers the question specifically about Lahaina is that the testing is very much in line with other fires. So I don't want anyone to think that there's a significant difference than the fires in California, Colorado, or Oregon. The testing that comes out, this is what we expected. I think you even heard Dr. Fink say that in one of his interviews. So this is what was expected. This is why we've taken the precaution we've taken to have EPA come remove the hazards. It's why there's material around the fire area. It's why we are looking at soil tack. It's why we would wet the material down. We've unfortunately gotten very used to dealing with large residential and commercial areas that have been destroyed by fires. And unfortunately, we've gotten pretty good at how to deal with that safely, especially when you have the community around them. With that, I'll let the governor answer the specific question about the schools. Thanks.
Yeah, this is very important. We anguished over this over the weekend, whether or not to delay the school reopening or not. So all of the tests around the schools have been negative for any of these concerning heavy metals, specifically arsenic or lead. There was one elevated number for nickel, which is unusual to see, and it's rarely a concern for people. We are doing samples twice a week. So we're testing the ash. We do anticipate the ash to be in Lahaina similar, like Bob said, to the ash in Kula and California, because the chemicals that are used pretty much universally, like trying to knock back termites, some other chemicals in paints, and so on. We're going to keep testing perpetually. I will say this, that most of the concerns about heavy metals are through ingestion. In other words, putting it in the mouth, eating specks of dirt or paint chips, that kind of thing, which is why we usually worry more around elementary schools, because our keiki, the young ones, play more in the dirt, they put more soil in their mouth. So being very thoughtful about that, but so far so good. If we ever see any concern, we'll immediately take action. It was difficult this last time just because of the timing. Because that data came in on Saturday, we wanted to respect everyone, so we made the announcement the next day and gave people the opportunity to know if they needed time to do research, it's okay. Don't have to take your kid into school yet. If you needed to wait for more testing results, which usually take about 2 weeks from each sample, that's okay too. But our Department of Health is quite good, and we're going to take a very conservative tack on public health questions. So it's mostly ingestion. It's not usually aerosolized breathing questions where you would see if the wind got up. Having said all of that, the measurements in the air have been in the green zone, which means safe. And if we ever do get yellow, orange, and so on, red, maroon, we'll immediately move our keiki indoors and then take time to move them home. One thing I would say is it's very likely that the classrooms are amongst the safest places because we have HEPA filters in the classrooms. We're able to seal the windows quite well. So we're prepared for that, but we're not anticipating a problem.
Mahalo for the question, Megan. Jeremy?
Jeremy Lee, KITV4. Question about public trust. Last time we were in this room, the Secretary of Energy said something about 17 minutes is what it took to overtake the town. That was repeated on the floor of Congress. Joint Information Center said they have nothing that supports that, nor has anybody who said it. So I wanted to see if we could address that. And again, in the interest of public trust, another question is about, were there any other text alerts that went out for evacuation besides the 4:16 p.m. text alert that went out specifically for Kilauea Malka? That's on the county level.
Okay, so that's a twofer, yes. Okay, so I'm going to take the first. So remind me again, your first question, Jeremy, is around
About the 17
17 minute.
point that went around, and the JIC said they have nothing that supports that.
Okay, so Jeremy is inquiring about the 17-minute time frame that has been stated in terms of how long it took for the fire to
Overtake the
go
town.
through Lahaina. Okay.
Thank you, Jeremy. The only thing I can say to that is there was a witness. His name is Tracy Bennett, and he was interviewed by a national news agency, and on that agency, he gave the time of 17 minutes. So if you look up Tracy Bennett on any video account, I can't remember the news agency. It was within the first week of what happened. He gave that time.
I'll get to your second question, Jeremy.
And in support of what the mayor is saying, one of the points of discussion was the speed with which the fire spread because of wind. And the wind was gusting, and this was what we recorded, at 74 miles an hour. And it was sending embers throughout the town. And as we know from the many people who were in the fire who did escape, they were sharing how fire was overtaking them as they tried to drive away from this 1 mile by 5 mile area. I don't think anyone is really debating the speed with which the fire was spreading. I mean, it was spreading very quickly, and it was overcoming firefighters, it was overcoming people. That's what was trying to be expressed. Now, when people talk about public trust, we're trying to be as open as possible. There were lots of discussions all across media and social media about how many people were missing. Well, we cast a wide net at first because any complaint we wanted to follow up on. In those first days and weeks, the net had to be very broad because we didn't want any single name to not be followed up on. We didn't want any loved one to not be recognized if we just had a first name or we had a nickname. So that was challenging because it led people to believe that there were more people that were lost. Now, we will do our best all along, and if we ever find another name or a lost loved one or remains, we're going to go through the regular process. We'll follow up with the genetics, we'll share it immediately, but we're trying to be as transparent as possible without deviating from science. Second part of the question was?
Yeah, Jeremy, repeat that second question one more time.
Yes, so the time, we know it was called in at 2:54, but the text alert went out at 4:16 and 4:17 specifically to evacuate Kilauea Malka, a 3-block by 4-block area just Mackay of the bypass. The question was, with the exception of that text alert, did any other text alerts to evacuate go out for Lahaina leading up to the 9:45 p.m. proclamation of a state of emergency?
Jeremy's question is around text alerts that have gone out and whether or not there was an additional text alert outside of the 4:16 and 4:17 one that was sent out for Lahaina evacuees or residents. Hello.
Yeah, as far as wanting the exact time, Jeremy, I'd have to get back to you on that. Okay? Thank you.
But was there another text besides the one that I mentioned?
That's what I need to get back to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Again, one of the challenges was telecommunications were rapidly being destroyed, which is, one of the realities. And as you know, we've gone to great pains now to assess everything. And that's, when we use the word investigations, most of that is investigating how we can better respond going forward, how we will use sirens, how we will use text messages, how we will use satellite communications, all of these things. And what I can say is, as we head into 2024, quite soon, with the new legislative session, our team is preparing a large package in support of not just Maui County, but all the counties for fire breaks, more technology, more capacity to alert our people, all of these things. And we would actually like to say that we are sharing our experience with other communities across the planet, other mayors, other governors, because they're facing a lot of the same concerns. So we're hopeful that though we've suffered terribly for our community, that other fires can be stopped, or other people can get more alerts, which is what you're alluding to going forward. This problem is not going to go away. We are going to be wrestling with a dry planet, with heavy storms, and need for resources, including fire, police, to protect people.
Final call. I think we had everybody ask a question. Does that? Wow. All right. Bryce, we'll start with you.
Yeah, for the Red Cross, I've talked to several people who are staying in hotels, and there's a feeling of we don't know when we'll be forced out. They don't know if they're going to get a knock on the door or a note or a call. How does that work? Is there a certain deadline where the Red Cross has to tell them that you have to be out by this point, or could you just explain how that works?
Bryce's question is around clarity regarding those staying in NCS, non-congregate shelters.
Yeah, we are not asking anyone to leave until we find a permanent housing solution. So people are staying in those hotels. We're not kicking people out. We have a lot of resources looking at different ways to put people into homes, but we're the Red Cross. We don't do things like that.
So if they do get a 48-hour notice, that means they have been...
We did give a 48-hour notice for them to sign up with the case manager, not to leave. And we probably could have done a better job with that communications, but having said that, we are not kicking people out of these hotels. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a super important point that Gail makes. If anyone feels that they're being pushed out, talk to your Red Cross worker. That's all. There will be no negative consequences at all for following up. None. In fact, the likelihood is they will not only help you find your next place to stay or keep you in your spot, but will also remind you that there is a grant or another program or some significant resource that's available if you haven't communicated. Because we have some people that were very reluctant to communicate, maybe because they were worried about their citizenship status, and maybe because they were worried that they had something in their past that might come out. We're not worried about those things. If someone has a citizenship concern, we're going to find resources in other places for them to be taken care of. At the end of the day, the conversations behind the scenes were more like, okay, someone have a disability, don't even worry. Someone has a child, they're recovering, they've gone through a lot of trauma, don't worry. But for others, we wanted to make sure if they needed drug treatment, or if they needed their medications, or if they weren't getting enough nutrition, we wanted to make sure that they were touching base. It also is a large resource question. We will spend billions of dollars, and that's a good thing to protect our people, but we want to make sure they're in the right place for themselves and that we're referring them to a possible job. As you can see, we just hired over 100 people, and I met with the new local people that just got hired by the Red Cross. They were over the moon to be able to help their brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles, tutus. They are going to be deployed now also to make sure that that 48-hour question is just clear. Just come get help. Finding out if someone hadn't heard there were several units available that we will rent through Bob's program or the mayor's program. I mean, it's communication at this point, but I don't want people to be concerned. We actually are just treating this as one community.
Chelsea?
Yes, question for Red Cross and maybe FEMA as well, but we have specific information for people who are staying at the sands of Kahana, who are being told they must leave with little notice, but they have no alternative housing according to them. Do you know what's happening there, or what's your guidance on that?
Okay, so real quick. So the question from Chelsea is around clarity regarding the situation with evacuees at the sands of Kahana. Mahalo, Chelsea. Give us a minute.
Yes, so I am asking Denise Everhart, who is responsible for our operation here, but I have a feeling it's a miscommunication of some sort, but if you have the details on that, it'd be great.
So we had a conversation, and the Sands of Kahana had some people that were staying there that weren't part of the NCS program. And when we heard about it from the governor and the mayor on the morning coordination call,
There's a Falls of Kahana and Sands of Kahana.
Ah.
Just want to make sure we're talking about the right one. Falls of Kahana was the one that wasn't part of your floor.
Falls of
I'm not
Kahana
sure.
was not part of our
Yes.
program, and so we sent caseworkers over to get them into our program and move them to another hotel. Sands of Kahana is one of our hotels, and once again, I'm going to emphasize that people should talk to their Red Cross representatives. Sometimes some of the communication comes from other entities. Some of the communication can be misread. Talk to your Red Cross representative. Everybody who is in those non-congregate shelters has a Red Cross representative.
I would add,
Thanks, Denise.
the reason communication is so important is because in this case, one of those facilities, they had gone to their board after the state had begun to reopen, and their board said, wait, we can only go a certain amount of time to allow for essentially short-term rentals, was my understanding, not realizing that that was waived by the emergency proclamation. And this is, of course, an unprecedented situation. We don't expect every board to understand what we put into emergency proclamation. Sometimes we just have to share and communicate, which is why, once again, if you ever have a concern, and this was a very good example, a rare one, of social media battles, but someone posted on social media a flyer, someone texted it to me at 3 in the morning. By 4 in the morning, I was calling Jimmy and the gang saying, what is this exactly? And they were able to investigate with our local people fast. And that way people don't have to worry about moving. There will always be concerns until we've fully recovered, and that's going to take a long time. So we know people will have to ask us for follow-up, and we will be as giving as possible. If someone in this group can't find resources for individuals who've been displaced or hurt, I would be shocked. And then one final thing, because I want to take multiple opportunities as we go forward to mention how we're going to begin to help people recover. Expect significant announcements from me in early November about funds for families who have lost a loved one or for individuals who were hurt in the fire physically. We're putting together a coalition to get them resources, hopefully in a much more expedited way so that they don't have to wait for a long period of litigation. We know that there are going to need to be settlements. There have been tragedies, and we want to be compassionate. So we will look at this as a recovery and humanitarian fund for those who suffered the greatest. We'll give a lot of details about that and how people can sign up and avail themselves if they lost a loved one. That will come in early November.
Just wanted to add, if I could, Governor. Our focus in the sheltering program at the hotels was a safe place to immediately make available to those that were left homeless by the fires. The goal now is to move them to a much more stable, longer-term environment. So the calls they should be getting from us now are, what is your situation? What do you need? Do you need 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom? How can we help you get there? What are the resources? If you're one of the individuals that already received rental assistance from FEMA, why have you not been able to use that yet? What can we do to help you find a solution? So those are the kind of discussions we're having with them right now between FEMA and the Red Cross, and how do we get you to a much more longer, stable solution where we can provide 18 months of assistance through rental. Keep in mind, as I said in the beginning, we originally gave out 2 months of rental assistance. It's now, if you want to, one of the 3,000 plus people, which many in the hotels fall into that category, have received rental assistance, and you find something and rent something, as long as you show that agreement, as long as you show that expenditure, you can come back to us and ask for a 3-month increment, and we've raised it from 100% of fair market rental rate to 300%. That's almost over $1,000 more per month that we've added to that. So we've increased the money we're providing in order to meet the need here. So we want to make sure that we're working with you. We understand your needs and how to help you get to a much more stable, longer-term solution. We'd like to see you spend the next 2 Christmases in the same place, right? I meant 175. If I said 300, I meant 175. Sorry.
That's why you saw my eyes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Chelsea, there was one property that I know of that had a 60-day maximum stay in a vacation rental. And the board at that property met. I talked to some of the board members. I talked to the president of the board. I could not understand why any association would have a minimum like that. The mayor, the governor, every single county in this state wants to put local people for a longer term stay. Not sure why they did it, but the majority of the board members that showed up to a meeting voted to not approve kicking people out because of a clause in their homeowner association. So I just want to clear that up. And so far, I only know of one property that had a situation like that. I'm not going to mention the name, but it's not happening.
Mahalo. I will take a final question from Paul.
Thank you. And while the gentleman is up there, it's probably a question for him.
Okay.
It's about the
Jimmy.
specifics of the MEO grants that are coming for these businesses. Can you get a little more granular? How much are they? What do people have to do to apply? Who would be, which businesses would be eligible and not, what that differentiation is? So that can be
The question is around specifics regarding the MEO grants.
Okay. So as a state, when we appropriate the grant, it's the boots on the ground that's going to do it, which is the mayor, which is MEO. So I know they have some guidelines in place, but specifically the governor wanted to make sure that it was the burn area victims first, or survivors first, and then your whole island, the whole island of Maui is hurting. So the governor wanted to make sure that even small businesses that are not in the burn area got the support. So Debbie and I have had that discussion, but they're going to come up with that plan, and as soon as the money's transferred over, we'll get you more details. I'm not prepared to answer all of the details yet, but I know that there's going to be levels in 3 phases. That was the discussion 2 weeks ago. Small business, middle business, and larger sized businesses. I'm not going to say what the level of money appropriation was going to be, because it may have changed based on the money that they have from not only the state, but from different philanthropist organizations.
All right, this formally concludes today's press conference. Mahalo for your time, and please malama maui. Mahalo, ahuiho.
Well, officials there keeping this press conference to an hour. We heard a lot from FEMA administrators, the governor, and Maui Mayor Richard Bisson. The big takeaway here, this is still an ongoing effort, as it will be for quite some time. They're closely monitoring samples from soil and air quality tests in and around Maui, the burn zones, especially the schools. That was one of the questions asked there. Just a lot to digest here. We're going to have more coverage on this coming up in later editions of Hawaii News Now. I thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Dylan Ancheta in the H&N Digital Center. Aloha.